Hello everyone. So this is going to be the first video in the YouTube series on the YaRrr Pirate's Guide to R course. So let's get started. So for today I'm going to cover chapter 1 in the book, and you can find a link to the chapter and the book below this video. So at this point, this is just the opening screen to RStudio. So at this point, I'm going to assume that you've already downloaded base R, the base R software, and also RStudio, which is the programming environment that we're going to use to program in R. So once you've installed that and open up RStudio, you should see a screen that looks like this. And as you can see, there's 4 different windows to RStudio, and I'll go through those in detail. First off, some of the basic information you can see. So this is what's called the console, and you see here that when you open it up, it will give you some information like the current version of R you're using. I'm using 3.2.2, which you can see was released on August 14th, 2015, and this one's called Fire Safety. They come up with crazy names for all the new versions of R. And some other random information you don't really need. So this is the console in R, and this is where R is actually going to evaluate your code and run it. And if you want, you can type R code directly into the console. So if you're not so familiar with R code, you can start by just using the console as a calculator. So I can say 1 plus 1, enter, and I see 2. Or 9 times 10 minus 7, I don't know. And I get 83, which I assume is correct. So this is where R is going to actually evaluate all your code. But most of the time, when you're writing R code, you're not actually going to write it directly into the console. Instead, you're going to write it into this window, and this is called the source. So here, you can also write R code, but it's really, you can think about it more as just a simple text editor, and that's all it is. So I can write anything I want here. I can write the same equation as before. So 9 times 10 minus 7. But as you can see, it's not actually being evaluated. And that's because, again, here in the source, it's just a text editor for you to write your code down. But then when you want to run it, you actually need to send it from the source into the console. And there's a few different ways you can do that. The easiest way to do it is to highlight code that you want to run. So for example, I'll just click and highlight this, and then I'm going to click the run button up here. And as you can see, this little descriptor comes up and says run the current line or selection. And you also can see that there's a hotkey here as well. So on Mac, it's Command Enter, but I'll show you that in a second. But for now, let's highlight that, and you click Run, and you see that now the code has been sent into the console, and just the line that I selected. Of course, you can select more than one line, so I can say, okay, run all this code, send it, and then once again, it sent both of these codes over. Now, I also mentioned that, or I said that there's a hotkey. So on Mac, it's hold Command Enter, or it might be Return. I always get confused whether enter or return, which is PC, which is Mac. So I'll probably get those mixed up. So now I can just select, hold, or highlight 1 plus 1, Command Enter, and it gets sent. That's typically how I evaluate code. Other people might do it differently, but I'm using the hotkey a lot. One other quick tip, if your cursor is on a line in R, then you don't actually need to highlight anything. If you just run the hotkey, then R will evaluate the line that the cursor was on and then move the cursor down to the next line. And then I can do it again, and it runs the next code. So that's also a nice way to run code. Yeah, so that's the source here. This is really your notepad for code. And you can see here that this is one code file. Right now it's not titled, so let me go ahead and save this under a new name. So I'll just say save, and then I'll just put it, in my book, and I'll say my first R code, and now it's saved. Okay, so that's the source. That's where you're writing most of your code, which then you'll want to send to the console. Now there's a couple other windows here. So this is the, down in the lower left, this is the environment, history. Yours may or may not say Git. You can ignore that for now. But this global environment will show you all the variables that you've defined in your R session. It's empty now because I haven't defined any variables. We'll get into that later. You can also look at a history of all of your commands that you've run to the console. So if at some point you just realize that, oh, there's something I ran before and I forget what that was, and it's not in my source, you can always look at your history and see pretty much a long-running history of everything you've run. And you could double-click what's in the history here, it will send it to the console. So I can double-click 1 + 1, and you can see it gets sent up to the console. I hit enter to run it. To be honest, I almost never look at this window down here. So if you find it useful, have it open, but if you don't like it, or if it's confusing to you, you can just minimize that window and then just focus on writing code. Now down here in the bottom right, we have another panel which has files, plots, packages, help, and a viewer. And this is where you can look at different files on your computer. I don't use this so often, but if you want to add folders and then or load things into R, you can use this. Anytime you make a plot, so for example, let me just make a simple histogram. And you don't need to know exactly why this works, but I'll just show you how it works. I'll say histogram rnorm 100. So this is going to generate a histogram with 100 samples from a normal distribution with mean 0, SD is 1. And you see when I run that, I get a histogram down here. So that's in the plotting window. And then I can zoom in and see a bigger version of it, resize it. So that's where all your plots are going to show up. You also have a list of all the packages that you've installed, and we'll talk more about packages in a minute. But packages are just folders of R code that you can install online. So there's one of the great things about R is there's tons of packages for different types of procedures that people have written and posted online so that anyone can use them. And these are all the ones that I've installed. I have lots of them. We'll go into that more in a bit. You've also got your help menu down here. So if you ever need help on a function, so for example, I just used this rnorm function. But if you wanted to know, well, how does that work? I can just type rnorm here, and I get help on how the normal distribution function works. So that's the help menu. And the viewer, we can ignore that for now. That's for displaying some other things. Okay, so again, we have the source here, the console, and this files, plots, packages window. Now, the first thing we want to do is learn how to install packages. So to install a package, then you need to use some code. So first let me just say, one other thing, you may have noticed here that I used a # before writing simple histogram, and that's to indicate to R that this is just a comment. So anytime you want to write comments to yourself that's not in R code, you want to put a # before it. So I can write here, my first R coding session. And now if I want to, for example, run all this code, then R knows, for example, this simple histogram was just a comment and it wasn't R code. If I don't put that in, and let's say I just run this line without the comment, then R sends me an error saying unexpected symbol in simple histogram because it has no idea what I'm trying to say here. This is not proper R code. So let's comment that back out. Okay, so first thing you want to do is learn how to install packages. Now you don't necessarily need to install packages for everything you do. But throughout this course, we will frequently be using what's called the YaRrr package. And the YaRrr package is a package I developed that goes along with this course. So let's go ahead and install it. The first thing we need to do is install a package called DevTools. And so to install a package, you just need to write this code, install.packages, and then write the name of the package in quotation marks. When I run that, then I see this little red stop sign going. That means it's running, and I get this gobbledygook. That just means that it installed the package. and it's telling you where it gets installed. And then I need to load the library. So when you want to actually run a package on your RStudio machine, you need to run this library. Okay, now I need to install the YaRrr package. To do this, we use the install underscore GitHub function, and then this is the name of the package. And when you run this, then you see this message saying downloading GitHub repo and installing YaRrr, and now it's there. And now to load the library, we say library YaRrr, and now we're ready to go. Now, once you've installed a package on your machine using install packages or install GitHub, you never need to run that again. You just need to run this library function. So the install really puts it onto your computer, and library lets you actually use it. And now that YaRrr is installed, we can look at a data set. So one of the data sets in the YaRrr package, if I go to packages, now if you click on packages and scroll down, you should see, if it all worked, the YaRrr package down here. You can see it says a companion to the ebook YaRrr. I click on YaRrr, then I see some documentation for the package. And I've got some help pages here. And one of the data sets in this package is called movies. And here you can see that movies is a data set containing the top 5,000 grossing movies. I think it's of all time. Now to actually view the data set, so view movies data set, we want to use the view function. And that it's important that it's a capital V here, otherwise it won't work. So let's view movies. When I run that, then I get this new tab that'll open up showing movies. And here you see in a spreadsheet format this data set. So as you can see, these movies are sorted by box office total. And so the first movie is the top grossing movie of all time, Avatar, followed by Titanic. James Cameron knows how to make a blockbuster. Followed by Jurassic World, which actually is already, I think this movie is still in theaters as of when I made this video, and it's already the third highest grossing movie of all time. That's crazy. Followed by, some other ones. And we can scroll down if you want, and you can see more. Okay, so that's one of the data sets included in the YaRrr package. The other thing that I want to mention is the RStudio reference card. And this reference card will show you a lot of the important functions in RStudio that you will be using throughout the course. So to get to that, you want to go to this website here. So http://wp/content/uploads and this, and I'll put a link to this below the video as well. I can't get to it straight from RStudio, so I just typed it here so you can see it. But this will have a list of many functions that you'll be using throughout the course. Okay, so that's the basic interface for RStudio. Again, we've got the source. This is where you're typing most of your code, and then when you want to actually run it or have RStudio evaluate it, you need to highlight it and send it to the console where it will be evaluated. And anytime you want to look at plots or see what packages you've got installed or look up help on a function, then you can use the help menu down here. And that's it for the introductory lecture.